Thank you all very much for being here. I now ask everyone to please stand for the mounting of the vigil. Gentlemen, you can please be seated. I'd now like to invite our Director on the 44th Australian Infantry Battalion Memorial, Mr. Luca Muir-Anderson, to explain the ceremony.
Hello, my name is Luca Muir-Anderson, and I am the founder and director of the 44th Australian Infantry Battalion Memorial, and the great-grandson of John McKean, who served in that unit. I'm also a trooper in the Australian Army Reserves. I created the 44th Battalion Memorial in March of this year because I saw a real lack of recognition for this particular unit. It was one of 5 battalions raised in Western Australia during the Great War. However, it is the only one to no longer exist, having been disbanded in 1960. As such, it has started to become forgotten over the years. They do not have their own physical cenotaph, and until now they did not have their banner marched on Anzac Day. The stories of the thousands of men who served with the battalion and the 482 who gave the supreme sacrifice in the defence of our country are at real risk of fading away. This was the first memorial service dedicated solely to the 44th Battalion in many years, as the old association ceased to exist long ago. There will and have been 15 ceremonies today, going from dawn until dusk, each one representing a different battle and having different songs, poems and stories. The names of all the soldiers of the 44th Battalion Honour Roll will be read throughout the day. There is an honour guard, band and speakers present throughout the whole day, and the main ceremony took place at 11 a.m, where His Excellency the Governor of Western Australia, Chris Dawson AC APM, reviewed the memorial. Our memorial aims to keep the individual stories of the soldiers alive. This is quite a demanding project, as even if we complete one soldier a day, it will take over 6 years to complete. Luckily, many members of the community donate their time to complete the biographies of these soldiers. I thank you all for attending and hope that you find this a meaningful service.
Thank you, Luca. I'd now like to read, thank you to our Director. I would now like to read out the story of the 44th Battalion, Australian Imperial Force. Raised in Claremont in January 1916, it was the last battalion to be raised in Western Australia during the war. It originally left Western Australia with 1,000 men under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Mansbridge on the 6th of June 1916 and arrived in England the following month to continue their training. They nicknamed themselves Old Bill's 1,000. Another 1,500 men would join the 44th Battalion as reinforcements over the following 18 months. The 44th Battalion, AIF, arrived in France in late November 1960, and the following month was sent to the front line of the Armistice sector. Over a period of 3 months, the battalion suffered nearly 70 kills from constant artillery warfare. From May to August 1917, the 44th Battalion fought brutal engagements at Mazines, Lieutenant Colonel James Clark took over command of the unit after the battle and would remain in command until the end of the war. The deadliest month of their entire service came in October 1917, shortly after the Battle of the Malines, when they were committed to the hellish fighting at, I'm so sorry, I'm afraid I'm not going to pronounce this properly, but Passchendaele and Brutat. In the span of less than 3 weeks, the battalion suffered over 90 killed and 750 wounded or sick, a casualty rate of 84%. After months of recovering, the 44th Battalion was desperately committed to slow down the advance of the German Spring Offensive from March to May 1918. Suffering nearly 60 kills but successfully holding the enemy advance in one of the most chaotic operations of the war, often not knowing where the front line was. On the 4th of July 1918, the West Australians fought alongside the Americans in one of their first engagements, the Battle of Hamel, suffering 30 killed in a single day. The month of August 1918 saw the battalion fight and win in 2 decisive battles, the Battle of Amiens and the Second Battle of the Somme. From this point onwards, the Imperial German Army was in constant retreat under the end of the war. 100 days later, the battalion suffered only 25 killed during these battles, but seized vast amounts of territory and took many prisoners. The final operation of the war was the 44th Battalion was to cross the St. Quentin Canal, take Mount St. Quentin, and breach the heavily defended Hindenburg Line. This occurred on the 29th of September 1918. All of the 44th Battalion objectives were seized on the first day, through the cost of 30 killed. For the remainder of the war, the 44th Battalion was now down to just company strength as reinforcements had ceased arriving for half a year. Only 80 men were capable of fighting. As such, it conducted rear duties under the armistice. During the war, the 44th Battalion AIF fought in nearly 24 engagements and received 16 battle honours. 2,642 men had served with the battalion, of whom 1,793 had become casualties, with 482 paying the supreme sacrifice. This represents a casualty rate of 68% and a death rate of 18% for their service. Members of the battalion received 125 awards for gallantry in action, 19 awards for leadership in action, 5 awards for other acts of service, 11 foreign awards from the United States, Belgium and France, and 1 man was anointed into the Order of Chivalry. After the war, the 44th Battalion was reformed as a citizens military force unit, consisting of 3 companies in Perth and 1 company in Bunbury. In the 1920s, it received King's Colours, Regiment Colours, a cap badge depicting a grass tree, a motto, an alliance with the Essex Regiment, and their regimental name being the West Australian Rifles. This unit continued to serve until 1960. Being on home defence duties during the Second World War, its lineage continues on today as the Royal Western Australia Regiment. I would like now to call on the Director to read the story of the Battle of Corby.
No one claims that the Australian Imperial Force was made up of angels. They were men with all a man's virtues and vices. In addition, it must be pointed out that prior to the Battle of Corby, conditions had been very bad, with continuous travelling by train, bus and boot, all whilst under the attack of the largest German offensive since the start of the war. No B Company man was dinkum unless he served in the Battle of Corby. It was the greatest battle of the war and will live long in history. B Company was typically Aussie, composed of hard workers, bad swearers and good soldiers. They could be led easily, but the officer who tried to drive them died of exhaustion. Upon arriving at the critical Somme front on the night of the 27th of March 1918, B Company was ordered to hold the town of Corby and hold the bridge across the Somme River to the last man. There was no information available as to the exact whereabouts of the Germans, and in front of them they saw many British soldiers of the 5th Army fleeing in confusion. The defence of Corby consisted of just 20 British soldiers, who whilst doing their duty regimentally were plain drunk. One of the British sentries almost bayoneted the Australian officer in charge. Such was the atmosphere of confusion and desperation. The Australian officer immediately berated the British sergeant in charge and stated that none of his men in B Company would ever think of drinking at a time like this. The officer had only walked a few yards further when he heard voices singing "Australia will be there." Then the company sergeant major hove in sight, steered by the orderly room corporal, who was endeavouring to keep them on an even keel. Seeing the officer, the CSM saluted twice. The officer ordered him to go to bed. 8th platoon was by luck halted next to a brewery. They occupied the brewery and did their best to prevent any of its contents being captured by the Germans. Their platoon commander did his best to stop them, but as fast as he would pull one man out, so another jostled back again. It was useless wasting words, so the officer in charge hurried to the 2 other platoons. They had been not so lucky as to be halted outside breweries, but still every second house was a testament, so they had not done badly. Precautions were taken to prevent any further drinking, and the platoon soon began patrolling in front of the town. When morning dawned, Corby was seen for the first time in daylight. It was an important commercial town, said commerce being mostly beer. The shops were well stocked with goods, and were just as the owners had left them only 2 days before. In the butcher's shops, the meat was hanging on the hooks. 8th platoon was now staggering to its collective feet, and if ever there was a ragtime platoon, it was number 8 at this stage. All 4 platoons also had a good feed. In the morning, B Company was relieved by the 45th Battalion. The Australian officer in charge ordered all the men of the company to halt 500 metres outside the town. There he addressed them. What he said does not matter now, but it resulted in dozens of bottles being voluntarily thrown away, water bottles being emptied, and fervent resolutions by the men of B Company that when they next met the Germans, they'd make them pay for what the officer said. They marched to Bonnet with tongues parched and only water, pure water, to quench their raging thirst. 2 days later, B Company performed extraordinarily well in the defence of Celle-Lorette. The 180 men of the company defended a frontage of 2 kilometres and caused hundreds of losses to the advancing stormtroopers and grenadiers, while suffering only 4 men killed. On the day following the defence, the Australian officer was wounded, and while being carried off, sent the boys a message that as far as he was concerned, they had all atoned for their misdeeds, and that he had meant all he had said, and that anyhow they were the finest company in the Australian Imperial Force.
Private Talbot Robertson, timber worker from Bunbury, killed in action at Warnton, 2nd of August 1917, aged 33. Private Richard Robinson, bank clerk from Perth, killed in action at Brunsunder Ridge, 6th of October 1917, aged 19. Private George Robson Moulder from North Fremantle, killed in action at Amiens, 8th of August 1918, aged 20. Lieutenant Alexander Roger, tramway employee from Victoria Park, killed in action at Albert, 22nd of August 1918, aged 33. Private Herbert Clarence Ronan, mill hand from Jarradale, died of wounds at Kilsteer, 4th of April 1917, aged 24. Private Morris James Ronan, mill hand from Jarradale, killed in action at Armentières, 14th of March 1917, aged 20. Private Theodore, labourer from Tenterden, killed in action at Armentières, 14th of March 1917, aged 19. Lance Corporal Reginald James Rowe, draftsman from Bayswater, killed in action at Passchendaele, 12th of October 1917, aged 20. Private William Joseph Rowland, police officer, killed in action at Armentières, 14th March 1917, aged 27. Private Charles Rutherford, farmhand from Mianor, killed in action at Messines, 4th of June 1970, aged 21. Private George Rye, farmhand from Wagen, killed in action at Bergstert, 14th of May 1917, aged 26. Private name Stephen Delaney, labourer from Perth, killed in action at Messines, 1st of June 1917, aged 43. Private Charles Edward Salmon, farmhand from Narangara, killed in action during the German Spring Offensive, 30th of March 1918, aged 24. Lance Robert Melville Soldier, audit driver from Kelmscott, killed in action at the German Spring Offensive, 13th of March 1918, aged 31. Private Bert Bramwell Sampson, clerk from Boulder, killed in action at Brookside Ridge, 4th of October 1917, aged 25.
Private Lionel Newton Savage, electrician from Kelmscott, died of wounds the 28th of October 1917, aged 19. Private George William Matthew Scott, farmer in Kellerberrin, killed in action at Messines the 8th of June 1917, aged 29. Private James Scott, railway worker from Midland, died of wounds during the 100 days offensive, 1st of September 1918, aged 34. Private Leonard Scribbing, painter from Kalgoorlie, killed in action during the German Spring Offensive, 28th of March 1918, aged 27. Corporal Ernest William Searles, contractor from Armadale, killed in action at Brusending Ridge, 4th of October 1917, aged 27. Private William John Short, farmhand from Hunderden, died of wounds at Messines, 1st of June 1917, aged 29. Lance Corporal James Clemens Skinner, salesman from Geraldton, killed in action at Passchendaele, 12th of October 1917, aged 25. Private John Sly, labourer from Kalgoorlie, killed in action at Messines, 4th of June 1917, aged 28. David John, accountant from Perth, killed in action. Macpherson Smith, Passendale, 11th of October 1917, aged 40. Private Ernest Walter Smith, a labourer from Fremantle, killed in action at Brewston Ridge, 4th of October 1917, aged 42.
Private Francis John Smith, stockman from Mullawa, died of wounds after breaching the Hindenburg Line, 2nd of October 1918, aged 36. Private Frederick Victor Smith, farmer from Geraldton, died of wounds at Passchendaele, 14th of October 1917, aged just 19. Private Ivan Herbert Jacob Smith, telegraph mechanic from North Perth, died of wounds at AIF, 8th of August 1918, aged just 19. Private James Grigg Smith, tailor from Boulder, killed in action at Broodside Ridge, 4th of October 1917, aged 20. Private Robert Alfred Smith, guard from Claremont, killed in action at Broodside Ridge, 4th of October 1917, aged 37. Private William Roy Smith, butcher from Sawyers Valley, died of wounds at Armentières, 5th of March 1917, aged 20. Private Charles Smithson, farmer from Twarda, killed in action at Armentières, 14th of March 1917, aged 21. Private Louis Solomon, farmer from Jarnadup, killed in action at Messines, 9th of June 1917, aged 25. Private Daniel Samero, labourer from Kalgoorlie, killed in action at Broodside Ridge, 4th of October 1917.
Thank you. I would now like to invite Helen Pickering back up. Helen is going to read a poem. This poem is entitled The Return of Peace.
As they who go away in flush of youth may come quite worn and grey, and bringing naught but ruth. So when strife shall cease, and when she comes at last, with all her armies vast, shall at her feet kneel down to greet thrice welcome peace. This world will be so changed, so many dear ones dead, so many friends estranged, so many blessings fled, so many wanted ways forever barred, so many coming days forever marred. She truly comes not back again, she the peace we knew. Yet how we long for her, how ardently we yearn for her return.
It always amazes me how young these soldiers were. I've got two sons, and I kind of consider what they do now at their age, and I think these guys, we such honour these men. The laying of the wreaths will now happen at the base of the memorial. A wreath will be laid by the Mayor of Cottesloe and the memorial director. Upon the conclusion of the laying of the official wreaths, I would invite anyone in the audience, if you would also like to lay a wreath, you are welcome to, if you have one, and the pipers will now begin the lament.
I'll walk with you.
standing for the last post, 1 minute silence, the Rouge, the Australian Royal Anthem and the Australian National Anthem. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget.
notes by Captain Longmore regarding the 44th Battalion. While memory lives, however, the fighting 44th will never die. To be with them over there was a privilege and an honour, a glorious page in any man's life. And when the final evening comes to us all, and the last pipe has been smoked, it will be of the comrades who wore the blue and white oval patch that will be proudly thinking. Theirs was a tradition that Australia will do well to perpetuate, as there's a growing generation of free men and women left to be inspired by it.